Hey everyone, what's up? Yeah, I thought I'd just take time here to kind of give you my thoughts and predictions, well, preview and predictions, on this year's Royal Rumble event, which is going to be taking place this Sunday from Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona. It is the third time that I know of that a Royal Rumble event will be taking place inside a stadium. Now, you might say, well, didn't the greatest Royal Rumble happen at that stadium in Saudi Arabia? Yes, it did. It did happen there. But that was more along the lines of a Royal Rumble to where the winner didn't really get anything, as far as I know. Or actually, the winner no. The winner didn't get anything except a green championship belt and the bragging rights to say, hey, we were the winner of the first greatest Royal Rumble. It was basically a promotional kind of tool to kiss up to the people at Saudi Arabia, whether WWE wants to admit that or they don't. So chronologically, it's not in the same veins. Yes, it's the same match. The only difference is it was a 50-man one, and they had some people in there that barely get shown on NXT, have not even debuted in NXT and stuff like that. Guys like Dan Mather and Babatunde, and even a guy that was brought in because the prince in Saudi Arabia wanted Yokozuna, and little did he know that Yokozuna passed away about 20 years ago almost. So yeah. Anyway, long story short, Greatest Royal Rumble is not chronologically in the same veins. Some people will say, well, the announcers commented that this is the blah 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 appearance for such and such wrestler. Yeah, they did, but chronologically it doesn't really count. And unless they would have said, okay, the winner of this not only gets a green belt and is the winner of the inaugural Greatest Royal Rumble, but oh, they also get a shot at SummerSlam for the championship, that would have been different. But they didn't. So that's why, yes, even though Greatest Royal Rumble took place in that stadium, chronologically it's not a real Royal Rumble event. And chronologically, from that standpoint, the actual Royal Rumble event, from an actual Royal Rumble event perspective, this, in the traditional Big Four pay-per-view format, is the third time, as far as I know, that the Royal Rumble has taken place in a stadium. The first two times were both in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, Texas, 1997 and then 2017. So the Alamo Dome hosted both of them. So this is the first time that a baseball stadium has hosted any kind of WWE event and outside of WrestleMania. Yeah, I did include that. Just in case you guys were wondering, I did include the fact that yes, WrestleMania was at Safeco Field in Seattle, but besides that, WrestleMania, all the other Big Four pay-per-views, with the exception of SummerSlam as well, have never been in stadiums besides those two other events. Royal Rumble is the third event, believe it or not, to follow suit in that, when they started doing that in 1997, and then 20 years later decided to bring it back in 2017. The only other event that has yet to get a stadium treatment of any kind, or even a dome treatment of any kind, is Survivor Series. And quite honestly, I think it's long overdue that Survivor Series at least gets once in a while gets a stadium dome-like treatment. But with that said, yes, the Royal Rumble this year will be at Chase Field in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, I do have the list of matches right here. As you can see, I do have the list of matches. But the question is, on anybody's mind, is what direction is the WWE going to go in when it comes to some of these matchups? Well, if you take into consideration some of the speculation and rumors and sources and reports being tossed around, things could go either way. So Let's start first off with the two matches that are going to be on the pre-show. Maybe one of them might get bumped to the main card, but we'll wait and see. But let's take a look at the two pre-show matches. The first one is going to be Shinsuke Nakamura challenging Rusev for the United States Championship. Now, it was nice that they gave Rusev the championship at the end of the year. Some people would say little too late, but it was nice that they did that. Now the question is, do they keep it on him? Shinsuke, I think, has plenty of time left on his contract, so I don't think he's free agent, AEW, New Japan bound yet. In fact, he's even made it clear he doesn't want to go back to New Japan according to some reports. But who do they go with? Well, I would think that it's almost been a month, and Rusev still kind of sometimes lets his mind run away with his mouth. No offense. And he says things that he shouldn't be saying. In fact, there was one report on ringsidenews.com where he basically said he's now wrestling without a gimmick. Okay? So, what do you do? How do you approach this? Well, one, they got to have a decent match, because if they're the very first match, they got to make sure it's decent. They got to make sure it's exciting enough to get people excited for the Royal Rumble and the rest of the card. This one, as far as pre-show matches go, is kind of a toss-up. Because as much as people would love to see Rusev retain and keep the championship, he's been there, done that. And there's no doubt that if these two are kicking off the event in the pre-show match, then there's a slightly good chance they're going to be in the Rumble match themselves. But if I was to go with anybody, I would say, as much as I know people may not like to hear this because they feel the championship's becoming irrelevant anyway, I would go with Shinsuke Nakamura, because I think this would be the year. If WWE is worried, as they should be, as some people would point out, as they should be, about AEW coming on in this year and just basically bombarding them and doing this and that, taking this talent, getting that talent, getting in contact with that person and this person, then if I'm WWE, this is the year that I revamp and rebuild and push Shinsuke Nakamura like never before. So this has to go, as much as people may not like to hear this, this match has to go to Shinsuke Nakamura. It really does. The other match that they have on the pre-show is the Fatal 4-Way for the Cruiserweight Championship. The Fatal 4-Way for the Cruiserweight Championship. It's Buddy Murphy defending against Akira Tozawa, Hideo Itami, and Kalisto. Now, Buddy Murphy, let's be honest, whether you like the guy or you don't, has been on a roll. And I like the storyline aspect with Buddy Murphy here. The fact that he's kind of in that Matt Hardy situation that Matt was in back in, 2003. Yeah, 2003. Matt was in a similar situation. Hear me out. You see, Matt was involved in a storyline where he wanted to be the Cruiserweight Champion, but he couldn't get that shot unless he made weight. Now the weight limit back then was 215 pounds. I think it was that. I think it was 215, I believe, at that time. I have to go back and look. It was either 215 or 225. Between those. Most likely 215. I think it was. It was between 215 and 225. Anyway, it was between one of those weight limits that he had to make to qualify for the Cruiserweight division and the Cruiserweight Championship. And the storyline was Matt would always just barely be able to make it even on the day of his title defense. Because as the storyline went, if he didn't make the weight, he would be stripped of the championship and asked to leave the Cruiserweight division. So Matt would always be making weight just barely to qualify to defend his championship or even compete for the championship. The same could be applied here with Buddy Murphy. There have been times, if you go on the WWE YouTube site or even the WWE Network, they have these little segments They even show these segments during 205 Live of Buddy Murphy always making sure he's made weight. Because if he doesn't make that 205 limit, then Drake Maverick, whether you look at him as a heel manager, a tweener general babyface, or tweener general manager on 205 Live, Drake Maverick would have no choice but to strip Buddy Murphy of the championship because he's not qualified. He didn't make weight. Now there's reports and rumors going around that Buddy Murphy might be going to the next level. In other words, Buddy Murphy might be heading to Raw or SmackDown because WWE has some plans for him. And if that's the truth, if there's some truth to that, I should say, then there's no doubt, in my opinion, Buddy Murphy is going to be dropping the championship here, but the question is to who? Who does he drop the championship to in the long run? Does he drop it to Kalisto and Kalisto becomes a two-time champion? Does he drop it to Akira Tozawa and he becomes a two-time champion? Or does he drop it to Hideo Itami? My honest answer, if Buddy Murphy, if there's any truth whatsoever to Buddy Murphy possibly jumping to SmackDown or Raw, then my honest opinion is Buddy Murphy is going to drop the championship to the one man that has not gotten it yet, and that's Hideo Itami. Hideo Itami, whether you look at the fact that WWE has squandered the boot on this guy, or whatever, this is Hideo Itami's time. I mean, and I think right now, when you look at the fact that Asuka is the women's champion on SmackDown, and Shinsuke is a former U.S. champion, might be on the verge of another championship reign, it looks like they're putting a lot of emphasis on the Japanese wrestlers. Now, Akira and Hideo are good candidates to try to walk out with the championship, but if Buddy Murphy is moving on to either Raw or SmackDown, then I'm going with Hideo Itami. He's the one guy that has not gotten the championship yet, and I think it's his time. And think of what it could do for Hideo. It could not only put him on that pedestal that WWE has promised him over the past several years, but it could also open the eyes of a lot of people saying, okay, might be too little too late for Hideo, but guess what? It might be the start of something. It's like I said with Shinsuke. It's like I said with Shinsuke Nakamura. This has got to be the year. If WWE is worried about AEW, this is the year they fix a lot of their mistakes, and Hideo's got to be one of them. Now, if there is no truth to Buddy Murphy moving just yet up to Raw or SmackDown, then I think Buddy Murphy retains. So I look at it this way. If one of these guys win, if Kalisto, Akira, or Hideo walk out the new Cruiserweight champion, then Buddy Murphy, then what I'm saying is that will prove what I'm saying. That will prove that there is a fire where there's smoke where there's fire, or you get the idea. Or there's fire where there's smoke, and it will prove that Buddy Murphy will be moving up to either Raw or SmackDown. There will be truth to it, and more than likely he'll head to Raw, since Alexa, the woman he's dating, is over on that brand. So I wouldn't be surprised if the following night after the Rumble you see Buddy Murphy come in and maybe make a play for the Intercontinental Championship. Just saying. But yeah, if, like I said, one of those three guys walks out the new champion, then it proves that where there's smoke, there's fire, and there's truth to Buddy Murphy probably moving out of 205 Live. If Buddy Murphy retains, then obviously there is no truth, and obviously somebody made that up because they wanted to see Buddy Murphy on one of these two brands. Alright, so anyway, that's how I see the Cruiserweight Championship going. And that's for the pre-show matches. Now, let's get into the main roster. The match I think that's going to open up is going to be the Bar versus Miz and Shane. I really think this match is going to be good. It's going to be for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. I think it'll be good. And I think we may walk out with new Tag Team Champions. I think that may happen. Now, here's the thing though. A lot of people know that this whole Miz-Shane collaboration, whatever, this whole team thing that they got going is storyline based to set up the Miz versus Shane at WrestleMania. Now, I don't think, honest to God, I don't think they'll pull the trigger here just yet. What I see happening is this. I see Shane and The Miz probably walking out with the championships and then dropping them maybe the following Tuesday on SmackDown, and that's where they might pull the trigger. Or I see them pulling it. I see them pulling the trigger at Elimination Chamber. It's either between the Rumble and Elimination Chamber they're going to pull the trigger. It's either going to be at the Chamber or it's going to be on the SmackDown after the Rumble. That's what I see happening. Now, they could pull the trigger at the Rumble. They could do that because there is history with the Bar and The Miz kind of associating with each other. So they could do that, and storyline wise, you could have The Miz walk into the Rumble match, be in there for a while, and then all of a sudden Shane comes out, maybe not an official entry, and cost Miz a shot at winning the Rumble. That could happen, and you could set up The Miz and Shane from there. So, my honest opinion though, I think we're going to get new tag team champs. I don't think they're going to pull the trigger yet. If they do, then I'm predicting the Bar is going to walk out with the championships. If they don't, then Miz and Shane are walking out with the championships. That's pretty much clear as day. So if Miz betrays Shane during the match and helps and basically reveals that everything he's been doing was a setup, then yeah, I could see the Bar retaining. But if they don't do that and they hold that off, then I see Shane and Miz winning. I really do. Now, the next match we have is Ronda Rousey versus Sasha Banks. This match, along with the other women's match I'll talk about in a minute, I think will be very good. These might be, I wouldn't necessarily say the show stealers, but this is definitely going to get people excited. This is going to get people on their feet. And when you look at Sasha and Ronda and the dynamic they got there, you have a legitimacy, you have some legitimate realism. Yeah, that's the one I'm looking for. You have some legitimate realism added to the fire here, added to this perspective, because here you have Sasha, who basically believes that she's better than everybody else. She's the best women's wrestler in WWE. And here you have Ronda that's trying to basically say, look, you know, I want to face old challengers, and the only person I haven't faced yet is Sasha. And I want to prove that I'm the best by beating Sasha. So, this is going to be an interesting match. Predictably, I think Ronda's going to win. If they take the belt off Ronda, that would be a shock, but I don't think they will. Unless they want to put Ronda in the Rumble and have her win that, and then she goes on to challenge whoever the champion is at WrestleMania. That might make sense too. But I think Ronda's going to win. Obviously, you're going to get your spot. You're obviously going to get that one spot in the match where Sasha might act a little cocky and everything. It's going to wake Ronda up. Ronda's going to get mad. The mood's going to change, as Michael Cole will put it. And she's going to get that look. And basically, don't be surprised if you see a look on Sasha's face like, oh crap, what did I just do? More or less a frightened look like, okay, maybe I shouldn't mess with this woman kind of deal. So I do predict Ronda to win, but it would be a surprise if Sasha walks out the champion. I don't think so. I think Sasha's going to be going into the Rumble match after this, whether people want to admit that or not. The other match, which I think is going to really, get people talking, is the SmackDown Women's Championship match, and that is between Asuka and Becky Lynch. This one's kind of a toss-up because a lot of people are like, well, Becky Lynch is over. Becky Lynch is beyond over. People love this woman. They love the fact that she's being basically legit. She's being real. She's being kind of true to herself now. She's being this badass of a woman that don't take crap from anybody, whether you're man or woman. Whether you're, Asuka or you're John Cena. And I could see this going either way. And the way I look at it, the direction this match goes will tell you the direction of the Raw Women's Championship match will go. Assuming they don't have this big, glorious plan in place for WrestleMania. But the direction they go here with Asuka and Becky, that will let you know who walks out as the champion. and more or less who walked out of the Raw Women's Championship with the belt. So unless they plan to do a unification at WrestleMania, which would be most likely at times, I could see Asuka retaining, and then Becky Lynch entering the Rumble and winning it, as some people are saying she's going to. Or I could see Becky win, and surprisingly Ronda losing, and then Ronda winning the Rumble. So it could go either way. So this one's a toss-up, probably more so than Ronda and Sasha. So we'll just have to wait and see what they do here with Asuka and Becky come the Royal Rumble. The next match that we have, of course, is Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. These guys are capable of having good matches. They had some people would say barn burners the last few times they have faced each other. But now the question is, who goes over here? Well, I look at it this way. Daniel Bryan has had that championship for quite some time now. He's had it since November. I would assume that the obvious thing to do is to keep the championship on him and let him drop it at WrestleMania. Maybe that's kind of like his send-off, because let's be honest. I think honestly, and I say this with all due respect to Daniel, I think he just wanted to have one more run with the championship before he finally decides to kind of limit himself in the ring, limit his schedule, and just kind of settle down. And he's getting that now. And having him retain here and then drop it at Mania, does give him a send-off, if you will, I think would be a great way, I should say, of WWE thanking him for what he's done and saying, okay, you've done all you can for us. Here we're going to give you the schedule more so. We're going to give you more time to be with your family, time to do things you want to do. I can see them doing that. But then again, you know, I go back to what I said earlier about WWE, as people point out, being legitimately worried about AEW. I mean, Triple H in his own way in an interview said they are keeping an eye on the situation with AEW. So they obviously look at them as a threat. So I'm looking at it this way. If Daniel Bryan wins, then the future for AJ Styles is kind of up in the air. There's no doubt he'll probably remain, because, you know, there's no guarantee that he'll make enough money in AEW if he goes there as people are thinking he would. I think AJ's going to remain with WWE. There's no doubt about that. I mean, because honestly, why would they put him on the cover of a video game and then have him be the focal point of $1 million challenge and do all this recent stuff with him if he wasn't probably going to remain with them? Just saying. I think he's basically established and set as far as WWE goes, so I don't think he's going to go anywhere. But it will kind of tell you what direction they may go with AJ, because the projection for AJ is Randy Orton at WrestleMania. But that doesn't mean he can't go in there and face Randy for with the WWE Championship on the line. So we'll have to wait and see how they get there. But I look at it this way. If Daniel wins, then we're going to get AJ and Randy, probably not for the championship, but something's going to kick it off sometime down the road. But if he does win, then that justifies, in my opinion, that WWE is going to do what they can to make sure that even though they know he's probably a lock to remain, they want to make sure he remains. So I'll put it this way: AJ wins here, that's a tall tale sign. Tall tale sign is how WWE looks at probably the threat of AEW being. Just saying. So it's up in the air. I would say if Daniel wins, they're going to have him drop it at WrestleMania, and that'll be like his last time being a full-time competitor. If AJ wins, then it tells you that he's going to remain on with the company and that the company does see AEW as a threat. Alright, the next match we have is Brock Lesnar defending against Finn Balor. Obviously, Brock's going to win. I hate to say that. But then again, they've been playing it up like Finn's got a chance. And, you know, just the fact that Brock interfered during Finn and Braun's match on Monday kind of shows you that he is a little worried, I guess. So if they do go with Finn going over Brock, that would be a surprise. But where do you go from there? Do you have the rematch at Elimination Chamber and Brock retains there, or regains the championship there and becomes a 3-time champion? Do you do that? Or do you have Finn win and Brock goes off and does this UFC thing? Who knows? More than likely they're going to go with Brock, but if they go with Finn, then there's going to be a reason. I guess maybe to show that, hey, even a guy that you doubt can walk out on top. Because they said there's a big push coming for him. You got to wonder if that push includes him beating Brock at the Rumble, but in agreement, losing the belt to Brock maybe at the Chamber. We'll have to wait and see what they do. And then we got the Royal Rumble matches themselves. Now, I'm part of the... for me, I am part of Dalyxman's Royal Rumble contest. And I have a decently good number as far as I know. Then again, it's probably a number of failure, but I have a number that's really up in the high number stratosphere as far as who comes out in the match. Who comes out what number in the match. Anyway, the question is who goes over in these matchups. Well, I look at it this way. We are going to see some NXT talent make their appearances. We will probably see a legend or so show up, and we might get a surprise here and there. My honest opinion, as far as NXT goes and surprises, there's no doubt they got to put Walter in here. They got to put Walter into this match. Give him a dominant run. Yeah, he'll be eliminated, but what a way to showcase how much faith you have in this guy by having him be put into a match of this caliber. Maybe have a few eliminations, show some dominance, even against main stars. And maybe have a face-off against maybe a big main roster guy, like let's say Strowman. Who knows? But I would say Walter has to show up in this match. He's got to do it. I guarantee you this. The moment that music hits, that crowd, the majority of that crowd is going to be hardcore. They're going to go nuts. So I expect him... I expect Lars Sullivan to hopefully show up in this one. Because Triple H says they're still working with Sullivan's and he's just, I guess, taking time. They want to make sure everything is okay with him. So, yeah, you're going to get some prizes here and there. Of course, there's no doubt you're probably going to get Big Show in there, which would be, that would be something right there. Just to see Big Show and Walter's face off, that would be something. But yeah, you're going to get some moments in there. You might, like I say, get some surprises you wouldn't expect with the within the company. So we'll just have to wait and see. It may not be as surprising as last year's Rumble matches, but I think it's going to be okay. Or I think it'll be good, I should say. But who walks out the winners? Well, as far as the men go, pretty much the projection is Seth Rollins, but we know how WWE is. They like to throw curveballs and they like to surprise us and say, oh, well, this guy's going to win. And it's pretty much projected and all that. And it might be true, and that might be true. But if I was to go, well, essentially, if I was to go, basically, ladies and gentlemen, with who I think is going to win. Well, first of all, I look at it this way. The Final Four has got to be Seth Rollins. It's got to be one guy from SmackDown, one guy from Raw, maybe another from SmackDown, and you got to throw an NXT guy in there, especially if that NXT guy is going to be coming to the main roster. So my Final Four will be like this: Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, EC3, and from SmackDown, I would say from SmackDown, who do you got on SmackDown that could legitimately do this? Randy Orton. So those are your 4. Those are the ones I see, Final 4 wise, in my opinion. You got to have an NXT guy, well, because they're still looked at as NXT talent until they get established on either Raw or SmackDown. So I look at EC3 as being my pick, one of my picks to be in the Final 4, if not the Final 6. But mostly the Final 4, because I think they're building him up. You could tell that if his first feud is going to be with Bobby Lashley, they're going to want to build him up and make him look strong. But in the end, I think, honestly, this is going to be a surprise, guys. I'm going with Drew McIntyre. I know people are going to be like, what, are you crazy? Why didn't you put Braun Strowman in the Final 4? I'm not saying Braun wouldn't be in the Final 4. He might be in the Final 6, but I'm not saying he'd be in the Final 4. Hey, Braun still might win. These are just my opinions, my thoughts. So honestly though, I think right now, Drew McIntyre is taking it. It's too obvious, really. It's too obvious, in my opinion, that even though they kind of reports are they've kind of dropped, they kind of slowed down on McIntyre right now. They're kind of holding back a little bit on him. I think those reports are just, they might be true, but all I see is WWE's building him up to win. He's losing matches, and usually that means that guy's going to win. Drew McIntyre is going to win the Rumble, in my opinion. My opinion. Now, as far as the women go, it's going to be really interesting because there's rumors going around that they might go with a double elimination. Kind of play off the whole Bret Hart, Lex Luger, whatever situation, and declare both women who get eliminated co-winners. If they do that, then there's no doubt that the two winning this Rumble as co-winners is Becky and Charlotte. There's no doubt. But I think honestly all signs are pointing to Becky. And you know what I think is going to happen? You are going to get some NXT appearances. You're going to have Lacey Evans. Of course, she says she's going to be in it. I think you're going to have Maria, even though she's 205 Live, you'll have her in it. I look at Shayna Baszler. Whether she's still champion or she's not, Shayna Baszler is going to show up. I see her buddies, Jasmine Duke and whatever the other girl's name is, showing up as well. I can see Bianca Belair showing up. That's going to be a surprise. I could see Io Shirai and Kairi Sane showing up. So you're going to get a plethora of NXT female talent here in this Rumble match. But I'm going to put it to you like this. My Final 4 for the Royal Rumble, the Women's Royal Rumble, the Final 4 there, the 4 horsewomen of WWE. Yeah, there's your Final 4. Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Bayley, Sasha Banks. Unless Sasha becomes champion and Becky becomes champion. But more than likely, it's going to be those 4 championships depending. But that's who I see walking out, being the last 4. And what an appropriate way for them to close out the Women's Royal Rumble. The 4 horsewomen of NXT, the 4 horsewomen of WWE. And in the end, I see Becky Lynch winning the match. And I see her winning it by last eliminating Charlotte. I see that. Because what that does from a storyline perspective is it infuriates, just taking my thing there, my time anyway. But it infuriates Charlotte to maybe she'll finally turn full-fledged heel. Because she basically feels, hey, I'm the queen, I'm the superior one, you're supposed to bow to me, not me to you. So, I look at it this way. We're either going to get a double elimination with those two, with Becky trying to eliminate Charlotte and Charlotte catches her and they both go over. Or I see Becky eliminating her and that is what results in not only Becky getting a shot at WrestleMania, but that results in Becky getting a shot at WrestleMania, and that results in Charlotte turning full-fledged heel. So, Anyway, that's pretty much it for my WWE Royal Rumble predictions and previews, and how I see certain matches and even the Rumble matches themselves going. But again, remember, these are my opinions, what I look at as possibilities. Let me know what your guys' are. Check out Dalyxman's review, if you his preview, and see what he has to say about it. Excuse me there. And that's all I can say, guys. So till next time, God bless, take care, I'm out.